Pair Up with Shared Power is brought to you by the Equity and Belonging team. Next slide. Thank you. Hey, Anthony, can we get the next slide? All right, all right. So we'll go through the introductions and then we'll discuss the PAIR framework. And then we'll take a deep dive into the S.P.I.C.E model. And if time permits, at the conclusion of the presentation, we'll hold a Q&A. Next slide. The Office of Equity's mission is to co-collaborate with state agencies, communities, and other stakeholders to ensure that everyone in Washington has full access to the opportunities, power, and resources they need to flourish and achieve their fullest potential. Excuse me one second, just gotta move this here. We aspire to promote dignity, honor, and respect for all people, including sovereign nations. We assist agencies with developing, strengthening, and supporting policies and procedures that realize equitable outcomes for all by eliminating systemic barriers that have deeply entrenched systems of inequality and oppression, and prioritize resources that have been historically and currently marginalized, ignored, and forgotten. Next slide. So the Equity and Belonging team consists of two parts. The Shared Power Consultants, so Radnisha Larkins, Sabrina Naroje, Amber Ortiz-Diaz, and Jean-Paul. Next slide. And the Pro-Equity Consultants, Nagmana Shirazi, Kalima Ojuma, Anya Robertson, Will Waverly, and myself, Jasmine Remick. Next slide. And together, we are the mighty Equity and Belonging team. Welcome again, and thank you for coming. Now, I'd like to take a moment to highlight two of our most essential team members. Mr. Nick Van, who's our director. Thank you. He inspires, motivates, encourages, and strengthens each and every single one of us every day. And the second is our senior administrative assistant, Jenny Sandoval, who is more than the glue that holds us together. She is brilliant, charismatic, straightforward, and magically makes the impossible possible. And lastly, I'd like to give a shout out to our newest member of the team, Community Outreach Coordinator, Natalia Kos Bajejo, excuse me. Next slide. Oh, okay. So this is a hybrid presentation. Anya is facilitating our virtual participants. So say hi, Queen. All right. All right. For those of our virtual participants, please feel free to drop questions in the chat. Those of you that are joining us here today in this lovely city of Yakima, you could jot down your notes or questions on the index cards that are on your table. If time permits, again, we'll have a Q&A at the conclusion of this presentation, but also if we're unable to answer the questions, we'd like to take them back with us and respond to you via email. So please write legibly in your email. And at the end, you can take down our email. And if you have any further questions, we can go and discuss those. Feel free to stand, stretch, take breaks, whatever you need to feel comfortable through this presentation. We have a quiet room located outside this room to the right. Bathrooms are across the hall. And lastly, you're most welcome to subscribe to our office's newsletter to receive updates and information. And now I'm gonna turn it over to Amber, who's gonna go over the connecting activity with you. I'm sorry, we're gonna give it over to Jean, who will go over the connecting activity with you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. All right. So we're going to do like a quick little activity with you all. So it's the intent is to ground ourselves with connecting with one another. So the show up authentically is a tool that we've created because we felt it was essential for us to show up our full self and not just a version that is conducive to the environment. So, so let's ground ourselves, look at your neighbor, and see really kind of like what is from the. Do we have it on the screen? No. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, perfect. Thank you. So our intent here, you'll see some of them on your table. Take a look at them and see how you want to show up in this space this morning and share that with your neighbor. And also, what is kind of like difficult? What is a challenge that perhaps you have this morning as it pertains to showing up your full self? So look at your neighbor and share with one another how you want to show up this morning. Do we want to kind of? Okay. And also, next slide, please. If you are unable to see the fine prints on the smaller document, we have a next slide. Yep. We have a QR code here on the screen. If you have a smartphone, you can kind of like see it with your own like phone. So let's take a look at the document and share with one another. Is that all right? Okay. Um, how many times are we going? We have like about 10, 15 minutes to kind of discuss how you want to show up and what is a challenge for you in this time. Thank you. Anya will drop like the link on the in the chat, or if you have access to a smartphone, you also can kind of use the QR code. Go to the other slide. I think the one that shows the document. Okay, so a few of our teammates will go around to kind of like check in per the tables as well to see how we are connecting with each other. All right. So we are 6 minutes into the activity. We'll do like a couple, probably like 2 more minutes to share with each other, and then we'll wrap up and then get back to our scheduled programming. If you haven't had the chance to share what is a challenge for you this morning as well, please lean into that because we want to know what is important, what is challenging, what is a strength, so we know what's important, how we're going to show up for each other and ourselves as well. So, all right, we are 1 minute left. So please be aware of the time as we continue to share with each other. 20 seconds. We have 20 seconds left. Yeah, for this part. Yeah, we just connecting with each other, and then we'll get back to the schedule program. Okay, we'll bump up the. Okay. Yes. Mic check. All right. So we are wrapping up our How to Solve Authentically activity. Thank you. I hope you feel connected with those on your sitting next to you, and you were able to share what is a strength and how you're showing up this morning, and also what is a challenge. That way, we know how to show up for each other and ourselves. Thank you so much for participating with us, and we're going back to you, Jasmine.
All right, thank you, Jean. So I'm gonna need everyone to do a tiny little favor for me because the introductory part of this it's just awful. Like the light is bothering me. All of my internal insecurities are bothering me. So I'm gonna talk to you all like I'm talking with family just to get my nerves under wrap, right? So all right, thank you, thank you. All right, good morning again. I just want to kind of jump right into it and get in the meat and potatoes. I'm sorry? Oh, oh. Yes. All right, so can we get the PowerPoint back up? And we'll move forward to the next slide. Thank you so much. So at the top of the presentation, we talked about the office's mission and vision. Executive Order 2204 identifies 15 determinants of equity as driving factors that impact the overall quality of life for all of Washingtonians because we are all very interconnected in these factors. As a state government, it is our responsibility to safeguard the welfare of its citizens. provide services and regulation of those services in healthcare, education, transportation, social and economic justice, and public and community safety. Each agency is charged with overseeing one or more of these determinants. And what I find interesting about this is that our largest agencies are very closely related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. By show of hands here and by thumbs up in the virtual realm, how many of you are familiar with the theory of Maslow's hierarchy of need? Awesome. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, great. Um, for those of you that might not be familiar with it, it is a psychology theory that was introduced by Abraham Maslow in 1943 that suggests that the human behavior or human motivation stems from meeting essential basic survival needs before one can progress to the psychological and self-fulfillment needs. So there are 5 fundamental needs that Maslow identifies, which are physiological, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. So imagine the hierarchy in the form of a pyramid. And at the base of this pyramid are the physiological needs, followed by safety, and then love. The 4th level is esteem, and at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. Washington citizens face grave disparities when survival needs are not met, like food, water, shelter, sleep. A few examples of agencies that support these physiological needs are the Department of Agriculture, Department of Social Health and Services, the Department of Ecology, the Department of Commerce Housing Authority, and the Department of Health. The next level in Maslow's hierarchy of need is safety, as in personal and community safety and security, employment and financial security, health and well-being. Agencies that support this need in this sense is the Washington State Patrol, Department of Corrections, Department of Children, Family, Youth Services, Employment Security Department, Department of Commerce, and O.S.P.I. Everybody knows what that is? Okay, because there's a lot. The 3rd level is love and belonging, which are 2 of equity's core values that breathes life into the Pear ecosystem. The love and belongingness needs refers to the human emotional need for interpersonal relationships, affiliation, connectedness, and being part of a group, being part of a community, just like I'm talking to you, like I'm talking with family. However, all agencies have intersectionality between these determinants and the different levels of need, okay? So agencies support the well-being of its citizens through universal or targeted approaches. And the universal responses in a diverse and pluralistic society may be inadequate in helping those most in need, while targeted responses are often viewed as unfairly helping one group over another, seeding hostility and resentment. As an equity and belonging team, it is our job to help agencies identify and change policies, practices, or procedures that may have an either-or approach, but really require a both-and solution to remove barriers to resources. This both-and approach is referred to as targeted universalism, which means universal goals are established for all groups connected and concerned. The strategies developed to achieve these goals are targeted based on how different groups are structured and situated in the various cultures and across geographies so that all citizens can realize the 4th and 5th levels of need, which is esteem, the 4th level, meaning self-respect, self-accomplishment, self-worth, and then the fifth top level of self-actualization, which is an understanding of like, I have done all that I can do. I have achieved the goals that I wanted to. I'm living the life that I am comfortable with. I've reached where I need to be, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so embedding Pear into the state government systems begins with the utmost important component of this framework, which is centering community voice, concentrating on people's unique lived experiences is essential for planning, implementing, and continuous improvement in state government operations. That is why it is the sun. If the tree does not get the sunlight, it will not grow, let alone bear fruit. In order for the Pear framework to thrive, employees from leadership to the front lines must adopt the Pear values, the rain here, the access, Ubuntu, love, dignity, equity, justice, and belonging into every interaction that they have with every person across the state, period. Thank you. Thank you. This is important because if you don't dignify a person, you will not reach them. They will not want to hear you. They will not know what services and programs are applicable to you. They won't care. They don't feel that sense of belonging, that connectedness. It is very important to dignify your clients and each other. So therefore, we must look at how we're also conducting business to know whether programs are working, if they're helping people, or if they're not, if they're causing harm. And we cannot do so without sharing power with community. Employees are also included in community because not only do state employees carry out the day-to-day task, you all carry out the day-to-day tasks, but we also utilize the same state government services such as public schools, transportation, health services, and the desire to have strong and vibrant neighborhoods. But we'll talk about the shared power principles a little more as we discuss the S.P.I.C.E model. And before I turn it over to the Pear shared power consultants, I wanted to add this last note. Understanding the S.P.I.C.E study published by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, there is a unique and distinctive relationship between the exposures to childhood trauma and emotional, physical, sexual, or household dysfunction and the negative health outcomes in adults. These long-term negative health outcomes constitutes as mental health disorders, substance use disorder, chronic health conditions or disease, suicide, or incarceration. Please note this very important point that the consequences of adverse childhood exposures can be passed down from one generation to the next. This is why we see mothers and daughters, fathers and sons, aunts and nieces, uncles and nephews, cousins and siblings in the justice system today. It was stated in the town hall yesterday that there are nearly 14,000 incarcerated people in Washington currently. And to be specific, Google said 13,972, okay? And then we talked about that there's this 30% recidivism reduction in recidivism rate, which is great, right? But it's not saying some underlying tones that you may not be aware of. So this data set, this data point is taken from 2017 to current and measured out that way to get this percentage. If you can't tell already, I really like data. However, there's other contributing factors to this reduction in recidivism, which we want. Um, that was the decriminalization of the simple drug possession that contributed to this recidivism rate. However, at the same time, nearly 98,000 people are booked in Washington jails every year, according to the Prison Policy Initiative. Now, the University of Washington Medicine Harborview Behavioral Health Institute conference at the end of September noted that there are just simply not enough mental health providers and providers of color to treat those who fall trapped in the revolving door of the justice system. In this fiscal year, I'm sorry, not this fiscal year. Okay, excuse me. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I get so passionate about this revolving door. Thank you. Thank you. I can go on and on to talk about data, but the point of the matter is that it can be displayed as the half empty or half full perspective, depending on who is telling that story. So it is important, we must listen to understand the unique stories of these vicious cycles. And agency programs, okay, can serve as a direct or indirect essential intervention that can break this cycle. And it starts when we show people, not tell them. We show people, we show our clients that they are valued, that they are loved, and that they belong. And this team right here, we are missing a couple of folks, but this team right here is here to guide agencies to have these critical, crucial conversations that are not quite happening. They're here to guide and help them to help community heal and grow. So it is utterly important that we apply the S.P.I.C.E model into our work as civil servants for a healthier and stronger Washington, so that all have access to the resources that they need to live and prosper. It's not just about getting by. It's about creating avenues to help people get ahead. Thank you. I know, I'm just saying.
Hello, hello, good morning. So for those of you that came in a little bit later, if you want to join a table, go ahead. We can take a few minutes if you want to. Nobody turn around, don't look at them, it's fine. All right, so I just want to do a room check because, sometimes we get into heavy stuff and it's good to like take a moment to check in. So for those of you that are online, go ahead and drop an emoji in the chat of how you're feeling right now or a word that kind of resonates with you. For those of you in person, take like, I don't know, 30 seconds or so and just talk with amongst yourselves at your table and say how you're feeling so far in this presentation. Okay, go. Yeah. 2 minutes, 25. All right. So I'm gonna turn it over to Anya. so she can read a few responses in the chat for us. So if we want to come back together really quick so we can hear these responses.
So some of the responses are inspired, uplifted, the thought cloud emoji, the happy face with the hearts on the face emoji, fit to bust, hopeful, let's go, black hand heart emoji, forward focus, determined, thumbs up, saturated, pink
Ooh.
heart, muscle, whatnot. Um, face with the glasses and the braces, inspired, hopeful, hug emoji, thoughtful emoji, purple heart emoji, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you all
You know what I
online.
love the most about that, Anya, that you acted it out too. Like that meant so much. That was beautiful. Let's give a round of applause for Anya. All right. So, another question, because I love questions here. So, raise your hand or virtual hand if you know what SPICE stands for. Also, are we on the next slide? Just making sure. I didn't check. It's okay. We're good. So, this is our SPICE model. So it stands for seeking new relationships, partnering, inform, collaborate, compensate, connect, and last but not least, engage. So you're probably saying, all right, Sabrina, that's great, but how do I use it? What does that mean? So I'm glad that you asked. Thank you. Questions? This is the way that we're engaging with communities across the state. So this model is a beautiful combination of relational partnership and shared power and the Pear framework that Jasmine talked about earlier. So one thing that I really want to interject here and say is a lot of people think shared power or relational partnership is a whole separate thing from Pear. What it is shared power and relational partnership is the foundation for the Pear framework to thrive. SPICE is how you do it, right? So keep that in mind. All right. So we're going to break down each of these letters of the SPICE acronym and get a better understanding of what that means. Amber?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So the first letter in SPICE is S, and it stands for Seek New Relationships. So I'm just going to read this out loud real quick. So learn and understand how to interact with new communities in a culturally appropriate and respectful manner. Meet communities where they're at, not vice versa. So the power of like new perspectives, government agencies being at community events, right? You all have your own communities and being able to wear all your hats, right? So for me, I'm from Yakima County, and I go to a lot of events here, and I wear all my hats. I wear my Office of Equity hat, I wear my community hat, I wear my parenthood hat. And so if anybody's talking to me in conversations wherever I can either provide a benefit or direct them in the right direction. And government needs to show up in these spaces instead of waiting for community to go to Olympia, right? So this is something that's beautiful about the convening today is that y'all are in my hometown in Yakima County versus Olympia or Seattle, Tacoma. So I know y'all had a drive over here, but that's what a lot of people in Central Washington or Eastern Washington have to do. So appreciate you all being here. And so we're gonna go to the next slide, please. All right, so relationships first. So this is just a new approach to government, right? So we have some resources, you have some resources at your table. One of them is a booklet. This booklet is our relational partnership in practice. So we want you to take this back to your teams. We want you to use this. We want you to read this. And on page 37, you will have the SPICE model as well. And there's a lot of activities that you can use within your teams and within your agencies or in community. And it has a lot of activities that you can reflect on as well. And the second bullet point here is a community engagement toolkit, which I will have our director, Nick Van, go into depth on that here.
I also see some people moving around. There's a whole pile of relational work partnership workbooks in the back too. So if you didn't get one, please peruse that stack of boxes in the back of the room. Take one home with you. So talking about the community engagement toolkit, this is something that we've been working on to kind of thread throughout the existence of our office. But we're trying to come up with best practices and overall guidelines for how to conduct community engagement in a culturally and demographically sensitive way. And so when we're talking about how is it that we go about doing community outreach, there's many different levels of this, right? The executive level might be different than frontline staff or middle management in how you conduct engagement. And if you're hosting something, how many of you have been in a government setting where you set up a Zoom, you set up a public meeting, and like 2 people showed up, right? Yeah, this has happened to all of us, right? We want everybody to try to do better, and we've done this too, right? Where we try to have a public setting, a public meeting, do some public engagement, and get feedback, and it falls flat, right? It's okay to fail. Let's fail forward, though. Let's figure out a way to do better community engagement. Maybe educate ourselves about the community that we're doing outreach to. Maybe do some trust building and understanding that sometimes there's been a huge breach of trust between community groups or demographics and government, and there's a very specific historical reason for that. So you have to lean in, understand what the history of that relationship might be, why there's been a breach of trust, and then start working through relational partnership, building trust with community members, even if that's like one person at a time, one organization at a time, and then not making it so that it's a transactional relationship, but actually putting some authenticity into it. So we did this how to show up authentically activity right at the beginning, because we're not faceless bureaucrats. We are also people, and many of us are also representative of the communities that we serve. And so when you show up authentically, it shows to the people that we serve. They can see it, they can humanize it, and we're humanizing each other throughout that entire process.
Thank you, Nick. Okay. And then Jean, you're gonna do 2 minutes. Okay, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Jean to talk to us about our partnership with Center for Public Impact, which is our program, the Washington Equity Program. Jean?
Thank you, Amber. Okay, so the Washington Equity, actually, raise your hand if you have heard of the Washington Equity Program. How many of you? Okay, so there's quite a few of us, but we still have a lot of work to do because it's a great body of work. The Washington Equity Program is a 3-year, 3-phase program in partnership with, we are leading it, the Office of Equity. We lead this program in partnership with Center for Public Impact, a global organization providing consultative services to government on how to reimagine how we serve our residents. So this is pretty much the partnership. But so what we are doing with the Washington Equity Program is we are developing structures that considers the needs of our residents and convene a space for both state employees who are continuing the work, the efforts of building equitable practices, processes, and policies in partnership or in collaboration with community members to co-create what does that look like in practice. So, and we are actually closing the last phase of year 1, phase 3. But I will give you a quick little overview of year 1 so far. So year 1 was different because obviously it's a foundational year. So what we did is we didn't go straight to go ahead and do phase 1. We did Center for Public Impact staff went around and asked the opportunity to interview state leaders who are doing the work, to hear from them what are some of the barriers that they are facing as it pertains to building an equitable agency. So there was about 12 or 13 interviews throughout the ground zero or phase 0 of the program, where we kind of set the tone to get a little bit of understanding of the culture, what are some of the barriers, what are some of the strengths, and really create the momentum for the following phases. So phase 1 was a group of state executives. We convened this cohort in partnership with both state leaders and community members to create a vision for what equity looks like. So this vision, you probably have heard this if you've been here yesterday or previous spaces Office of Equity have led, a Washington for all. That is the vision our leaders came up with in partnership or in collaboration with our residents. So that was phase one. Phase two, our task or the goal was to create a community engagement, a vision for how we conduct our community engagement outreach efforts. This was vital because from ground zero to actually creating that vision in collaboration with our community members, we were intentional about hearing those who are the efforts from state community engagement practitioners, DEI or equity practitioners, in collaboration of those who are already doing the work in the communities. So we did that. What we came up with is not just having community by saying, oh, we have all this amazing resources, here they are. What we did is how we set the tone prior to doing in community engagement. Do we go to events? Do we get to know people? Do we build relationships? So when we actually are creating this effort, this program, we actually know who the people are who need them and who are the community organizations that are already have the trust of the community and leverage what that looks like to move the work forward. So we came up with this community engagement strategy that you will be seeing in the toolkit that Nick kind of shared with you just a little bit, a couple seconds ago. And now we are in the process of, in phase three, which is really how we operationalize the work. So we have a few train the trainers, representatives from various agencies who are doing the work, and also community engagement practitioners as well, to really just how do we carry all this tool that we are creating with community members and state employees to directly put that into the work that's happening within their respective agencies and teams. So that is kind of like the overall like year one of the Washington Equity Program. But this is not all. We can all attend these sessions. We can all try to have these conversations with our teams. But if we're not embedding these processes and policies and practices in every single thing we do, then we are not maximizing our full potential as state employees to serve people adequately. So that's the overall approach of this year one of the Washington Equity Program. But we will have year two, year three. So we look forward, for those of you who have not heard of the program, we look forward to engage with you and collaborate with you further on what that looks like.
Thank you, John. Next slide, please. We can get the slide with the P on the. Thank you. So the next letter is partner. So we're going to go into our shared power principle. So essentially here, it's about co-creating with you all. You all heard from John. It's about hearing new perspectives, learning from one another. And really the questions are, who is at the table? Who is missing? Who's being excluded? Are we making an impact, or are we providing or making unintentional harm, right? So Sabrina's going to walk us through the shared power principle and then go through the rest of the letters. I know we're running a little bit behind on time, but we definitely want to get into our activity for the second half. So I'll hand it over to you, Sabrina.
Next slide, please. Perfect. So the four shared power principles are who gets to make decisions, and that is community. So everyone affected by a decision should have a chance to share thoughts and opinions. The next one is how do we relate to one another? That's relational partnership, right? Relationships first, making sure that we're connecting with folks before getting to like the agenda or anything like that. This is all about trust and respect. So people involved in the decision-making process should trust and respect each other to build on those relationships. Third one is who is accountable to whom, which accountability is like my jam. So this is about sharing control and encouraging independence. So instead of one person making the decisions, power should be shared with everyone. And government needs to be held accountable for their actions, right? Last but not least, we have how does improvement happen? So building a culture of continuous learning. So being transparent, being willing to learn from each other and value differing perspectives and lived experiences. And this is part of that, right? We're all here to learn together and share with each other and understand more so that we can do better. Next slide. All right. So, just as a summary, so these principles aim to create fair and collaborative environment where everyone can contribute to decisions that affect their lives. So, moving into the letter I. So, letter I is for inform. So, this is really about the methods that we use to get the information out, right? So, the questions that y'all should be asking yourself and within your organization, departments, teams is what methods of communication are we using? What platforms are we utilizing? Is it effective? Who are we reaching and who is left out? So, what are some ways or approaches that we can use to get more information out to people? Next slide. So, we have tapping into your network, attending community events, as Amber stated, that are also outside of your own community, sharing knowledge and not gatekeeping information, and looking at different platforms to be able to share out. Because not everyone has access to technology, let alone the internet. So we can't just rely on emails or subscribing to newsletters, right? Other options that we can use is thinking about newspapers or the radio or word of mouth or flyers around your community, just engaging with these community members to get the information out there. And lastly, follow up and follow through. So you can't inform folks about a program or resources and then expect them to navigate the system, which we all know is chaotic and wild and a little complicated, right? But making them do that alone. So making sure that they have that support and access to resources and following up with them and building on that relationship. All right, moving into letter C. Letter C is for connect, compensate, collaboration, and I'd like to actually add one last one, which is co-creation. So I want you all to think about a time where you felt a genuine connection with somebody, or maybe a group project that went smoothly and had really great results. What made it successful? Now, think about a time when you noticed government co-creating with community. What made it successful? So I'm going to turn it over to our online folks really quick to drop some thoughts in the chats. And then Anya, if you could read out a few of those as they're coming in. And then I'm going to actually ask some of my colleagues here to discuss an example of when co-creation was effective. And I think I'm going to call on Will.
Don't you love those unexpected call-ups, right? So part of co-creation is when you co-create something, a lot of times that we think if we do not have the same way of going about doing something, that somehow it's wrong with that the other person is doing it. That's not how co-creation works. Everyone needs to be able to have their thoughts, their ideas, their perspectives relevant. I know what it's like to think, look, talk, sound like me. Sabrina knows what it's like to think, talk, and sound like her. So for us to co-create, we have to allow space for each other to be able to do that, right? Does that make sense? Right? So that's it in the most basic form, what co-creation looks like. Give each other space to say what we need to say, to give their thoughts, and also take their ideas. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean their thoughts are dumb, their thoughts doesn't make sense, or whatever that is. Actually, allow them to be themselves and let their thoughts matter. Thank you.
Round of applause, yes. All right, Anya, go for it.
And online, one person said vulnerability, another said personalities meshed well, someone said intention and accountability, Someone also said that they have not witnessed genuine co-creation personally, and that they've widened their outreach and co-creation, but still growing that to be, sorry, just changed, to be open to all. Someone said fidelity, genuine, and connection. Someone said, I see co-creation come up in coaching spaces. Someone else said true consideration of all ideas and contributions. And then someone said co-creation has been effective for their work when the meeting, event, etc. was built together. Even if it was one person's idea, space was given for the group to create and run with the goals of the idea.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anya. And thank you for everybody online that's tuning into this and dropping their thoughts in the chat. I love what somebody said about, I haven't seen that yet. That's okay. That is okay. That's why I said earlier, when we know better, we do better, right? So this is about coming together, collaborating, right? And talking with each other and learning about different perspectives so that we can move forward and do more. All right, so lastly is compensation. So for me, this is a no-brainer. I'm also the program manager for community compensation, so if you have any questions, find me later. But this is important because we need to pay folks for their time and their lived experience. Thank you. Exactly. So without community input, right, the government wouldn't be able to create policies, processes, and procedures that reflect community needs. So we're going to go into the next slide and talk about a couple of projects. So I'm going to actually hand it over to Nick first, and then we'll go to Anya.
All right, so I was going to talk a little bit more at length about the Healthy Environmental Act for All, Healthy Environmental for All Act, HEAL. Sorry, it's still early and I've only had one coffee. So when the legislature created the HEAL Act, it was interesting because they kind of baked in shared power into the structure of it by creating an Environmental Justice Council. And this Environmental Justice Council was intended to actually create a partnership between community advisors, trusted messengers from within the community, and state agencies, so that when state agencies are figuring out which communities are being overburdened by climate change and where we need to invest where the needs are the greatest, the EJC, as it's called, and the state agencies are intended to come together and co-create solutions moving forward. There's also a HEAL dashboard, which has data on where we have overburdened communities in Washington state. And as we continuously improve, understanding where the impacts are the greatest, which communities are most overburdened, and how Washington state is actually spending its money, its millions or billions of dollars on creating impact to counteract the effects of climate change, understanding that these funds need to go to overburdened communities that are most affected by climate change, to overburdened populations that are most affected by climate change because of intersectionality. There's other aspects of their lives that are exacerbated by the fact that the climate is constantly changing for the worse. And so when Washington State created this program, it was really intended to be shared power without really calling it shared power. So we're calling it shared power. But in actuality, great to go check out the dashboard, understand that all the state agencies and the community partners that have been involved with it have really been instrumental in trying to come together and understand how we co-create solutions between the private sector, nonprofit organizations, and state government.
Anya?
Thank you. One thing I did want to mention for good examples of co-creation, one of the online participants said, for a good example, check out the Washington Fatherhood Council. So I just wanted to make sure folks in the room heard that as well. Another agency that we partner with is the Department of Commerce. Currently, the Department of Commerce has the Community Reinvestment Project or Plan known as the CRP. That's $200 million prioritized for Black, Indigenous, and Latinx communities. Our role is to support commerce in many ways, especially informing all communities about this opportunity and the resources available. This is a work in progress, and the more we engage with communities, the better we can support the department's mission. We're actively tapping into our networks and attending events and meetings with impacted communities in Yakima, Moses Lake, Spokane, Seattle, Tacoma, Vancouver, and more, right? We're constantly out in Washington. We continue to listen and learn from those directly impacted, and will continue to inform those that are not informed. These insights help us to ensure that Commerce's strategies become more accessible and responsive to underserved communities. We're amplifying key information about the CRP, communicating funding opportunities, support systems, and long-term benefits through technical assistance, workshops, forums, and in-person engagement. We're also fostering open communication between commerce, local organizations, and community leaders. The Office of Equity works closely with Commerce and the interim CRP statewide advisory board, which we are still recruiting for, by the way, to provide real-time feedback and ensure the community's voice is present every step of the way. Our shared goal is to build trust, engage communities, and ensure the community reinvestment project plan, same thing, delivers real, lasting impacts. Together, we're laying the foundation for a more inclusive and equitable Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, round of applause. All right, I know we're really antsy to get into this activity, and I'm antsy to see how y'all do with it. So I'll speed this up real quick. So I already talked about the why of why it's important to compensate our community members or our volunteers, right? So as an example of community compensation, we have our community advisory board that was within the Office of Equity, and they are our guiding light, right? So they are tasked with kind of community members across the state. There's about 11 of them, and tasked with telling us like what the work is, right? What is going on in your respective communities? Where do we need to support more? Where do we need to, remove barriers and provide more resources? And so we do compensate them for their time and lived experience, because without that, we wouldn't be able to say, oh, actually, Central Washington has different needs than Eastern Washington, or Eastern Washington has different needs than the West Side, right? So that is an example of how community compensation is put into effect. If you have any questions, please find me, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But with that, I will hand it over to Will.
I can go on my scheduled time now, Sabrina. Thank you so much. Great. So I like to be interactive. So if you can hear my voice, clap 2 times, please. Thank you for that. Next slide, please. So next slide, we're going to talk about engagement, right? What does that look like? Thank you so much. So engage is to interact with others through activities or events and listen to understand the perspective of community members. The word I want to focus on, perspective, right? I want y'all to repeat after me, perspective. Again, perspective. Perspective, how you see things absolutely matters. How you view things matters, right? Your perspective, your viewpoint. To give an example, who in here likes to work out 4 or 5 days a week? Who here enjoys that? All right, a few, all right? So for those who don't like it, why don't you like it? All right? Weights are heavy, right? Cardio is sweaty, right? Making time to go to the gym, those are the challenges that you have with doing that. But then imagine, with that perspective, you go to the doctor and the doctor says you have 6 months to live. But for every day that you work out for an hour, it will add a day to your life. Does your perspective change, right? There we go, right? Right, exactly, right? In the gym every day. It's not I have to work out. You no longer see exercising as a problem. You see it as an opportunity because your perspective has changed. I have to work out. I get to work out. I get a new lease on life. I get to live a little longer. That's the importance of perspective. So we're going to go through an activity. Next slide, please. All right, and we're going to do something to model and simulate, you all are our community today, what it is like to have the perspective of community members. So I want you to think for a few minutes about who you are and in terms of your value. Next slide, please. So there's different things that could value and be important to you. Click, please. Your gender identity could be something that you value, whether it's male, female, gender non-conforming, whatever it is. Click, please. Click, please. Right, thank you. Click again. We'll just do it this way. Click again, 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 again. Stop. Thank you so much. Right. So your name could be important to you. It could be a legal nickname, whatever it is that you call it. Your culture, right? Your beliefs, your social norms. That could be something that's of value to you. That could be something that's important to you. Your economic status, your net worth, right? Your earning power, the things that you could be able to do because of how much you earn. Your passion could be important to you. What inspires you? What gets you up in the morning? What drives you? What gets you going? Privilege. Everyone has some type of privilege. There's advantages to being you. I have an advantage of being 6'2", of reaching things on the top shelf, right? As opposed to somebody like Amber, like at 5'2", right? There's a privilege to that. We all have some type of privilege. Religion. What, if any, spiritual practice do you have? Community. Not just your community in your home, but community as a large could be something important to you, something that you value. And your career and education could be something that you value. So what I want you to do, we want to run through an exercise. On your table, if you cannot see it on the screen, you have sheets that says, who are you? Right? And also, each of you should have a stack of 5 cards. If you do not have a stack of 5 cards, raise your hand and JP will make sure that you get them. All right? Thank you so much. So with the activity, and Anya, please drop the initial instructions in the chat. And we'll wait for everyone to have them, and then I'll go through, right, what we're going to do next. Yep. Thank you so much. And if you also need a writing utensil, you can raise your hand and we'll take care of that as well. Cool. So if you can hear my voice, clap twice, please. If you can hear my voice, clap twice, please. Thank you so much. So what I would like for you to do is each one of those cards represents a value to you based off of what the screen or whatever it is that you want. What you're going to do is on each card, write one of those values that's important to you. So for example, if your name is something that values to you, you're either going to write the word name or your actual name. You're going to keep it private to you, so whatever it is that you write, right, that's up to you, however you choose to do. Or it could be something that's not on the screen. When you're done, you are going to have 5 values on the 5 cards. Does everybody understand that? So each card, you're going to write 1 value on those, and then when you're done, you should have 5 values on the 5 cards, 1 on each card. Does that make sense? Thumbs up. Everybody follow me? Great. So we're going to give you a few minutes to do so. Thank you. You're supposed to fill out 5 cards each. Okay, right? That table back there needs some more cards. Raise your hand so they know. Sure. So I'll repeat the directions. All right. So each card is going to represent 1 value on the screen or anything that you want. You are going to write 1 value on each of the card. So for example, if your name is something that values on you, on 1 card, you're either going to write your name or the word name so that you know what it is. When you are done, you are going to have a value on each of the 5 cards. Does that make sense? So everyone would have 5 values filled out. and we'll give you about 2 minutes to complete. We'll give you about 1 more minute. If you can hear my voice, clap twice, please. Thank you so much. If you can hear my voice, clap twice, please. Next slide, please. So the next part of this activity is what we call identity theft. So we're going to explain the rules and then demonstrate, right? And then we'll have you all do it. Click, please. So the first step, you are going to partner up with someone in the room. Click, please. Right? You're going to partner up with someone in the room that is not at your table. So yes, you're going to make new friends. You're going to use the whole room, all right? You're going to stand up, right? And we'll explain first what does that look like. You're going to spread your cards, so your cards, JP, in front of you with your values facing you away from your partner, just like this. The morning somebody said when I handed her her card, she's like, oh, pick a card, pick a card. That's exactly what you're going to do, right? So with your partner, they're going to, click please, take 2 cards from you, one at a time. They're going to destroy and discard that. And again, we'll demonstrate what does that look like. Yes, I see the faces. We're going to get a little bit disrespectful, right, in here, right? Absolutely. All right, click please. Then you're going to discuss what it was like to have those things taken away from you. And then after you have those 2 things, click please, you're going to switch roles, right? As the saying goes, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, right? We're going to switch, and the rabbit has the gun. So JP and I will demonstrate. All right. All right. He's holding there, right? Let me get that. All right. Right? All right. What was that?
I feel attacked.
No, whoa. What did I take?
You took my name.
Your name, right?
Took
What
my
is your name?
name.
What does that mean to you?
It's everything. It tells my story, tells my family lineage. It's everything to me.
Okay.
You took that.
Okay, well, that's too bad you said everything because I'm gonna need something else. Put your cards in front of me. I'm gonna need something else.
What?
right. Let me get this. All right. And Anya, please post the instructions in the chat room. Thank you so much. What was that, Mr. Everything? What was that?
That's more of everything. That's my community.
Your community. Oh, what was it like for me to take that?
I feel minimized.
Minimize, all right?
Yeah,
A little bit more minimized because I stepped on it?
for sure.
For sure, right?
For sure.
So everybody got the instructions. You're going to pair up with somebody in the room that is not at your table, right? Take two things one at a time, destroy, discard it, right? I don't want to see anybody nicely put the cards on the table. We want to rip them up, see them on the ground, all that. We're going to walk through and make sure, right, you do that. We'll give you several minutes to do so. Go ahead. Thank you. Give you about one more minute. One more minute. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice, please. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice, please. Once again, if you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice, please. Right? I know the conversations has been great. No matter where you are, I need your attention focused on me, please. Cool. So does everyone still have 3 cards? Wonderful. So now what I want you to do is switch. You're going to find somebody else in the room and the same process. They're going to take 2 cards from you, you from them. So you're only going to have 1 card left, and then when you're done, return to your seats. All right? Click, please, on the slide. Oh, he's right there. No, I'm good. Click, please, on the slide. Oh, and Anya going to open up the chat. Oh, man. Again. Also. We'll give you about 1 more minute. So please wrap up your conversations and return to your seat, please. Right, if you can hear the sound of my voice, clap twice, please. Thank you. We'll have everybody return to your seats. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for returning to your seats. Appreciate you. Great. So we need everyone's attention, please. The sound of my voice, clap twice. Thank you so much. So you've now interacted and engaged with each other. So now we want to hear some feedback. So what was it like to have those things taken away from you? Who would like to share? Go on, JP. Do you think?
Yes, I think we have Anna and Melissa would like to share. Please. Yep. All right. Anna, you want to share?
I think would like is a bit of a stretch, to be honest with you. Thank you, Melissa, for ripping my cards. I think my first one was, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, Cameron, and I ripped his cards, and it did not feel good at all. I ripped his community of East Africa and learned a lot about him, and I did really well ripping cards. Um, I enjoyed it, but he ripped mine, and I did okay. But once I got with Melissa and was left just with one, it kind of just realized that it was just I was just left with being a female, and it kind of just dinged on me that is not representative of who I am. I no longer had my culture, no longer had my family, my passion, my able-bodiedness, which is something that I'm very blessed for, my family, which is my driven passion, um, who makes me who I am. I'm just, a female, which is also very empowering, very grateful, very everything, but I lost a huge power or a huge piece of me who makes me. I'm no longer myself. But yeah, that was a very interesting exercise.
Thank you. Thank
I-
you.
Thanks.
Great. Go ahead, Nick.
All right, we've got one over here and maybe 30 seconds or less so we can wrap up.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Dennis Worrell, Healthcare Authority, he, him pronouns. What I went right to the metaphysical part of this because is illustrating to me how systemic oppression hurts everybody. Because if you're any measure of a good person and you take an identity from someone, you're hurting yourself. And I could not bring myself to tear up another person's cards. I just put them on the table. So I think this was a great example of how I should conduct myself as a state employee, and I just wanted to share that with everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I want to hold on to that thought, right? We're going to go from there. So who here, and I'm sorry, we have to wrap up, right? So I want to ask you all, who here did not want to take cards from people? By show of hands, who did not want to do it? So then why did you do it? Right? I gave a set of rules and guidelines. Did I say you didn't have to do it? Right? Right? Did anybody give any type of pushback or resistance? You didn't want to do it, but yet you did it anyway, right? How many of our policies, practices, procedures, the things that we do in government are taking things away from the community that we serve, whether it's intentional or not, right? It is all about, right, that perspective, right? Again, what did we say in the beginning? Perspective is everything, right? Perspective matters. So now with that new perspective, what are we going to do? Go back to our jobs, go back to our communities, go back to our offices with that new perspective. What are we doing that is taking things away from people, and then what can we implement to not do that? Because guess what? You have some type of motivational feeling, all right, that sucked, right? And you go to the conferences and the coaching, but if you don't actually implement anything, nothing is going to change. So much time in this work, we say, I see you, I value you, I hear you. But if we don't do anything about it, our community is like, okay, so what, right? You saw me and didn't do anything. So what are you going to actually implement? What are you going to do? And the last part of that, right, is not just about implementation, it's about executing, right? And the way you do that is change your words, change your perspective. Stop saying we should do this, we should do this, we should stop this, we should start Monday. You don't get what you should do, you get what you must do, right? We must change. We must have the S.P.I.C.E model. We must have the Pear framework. We must seek new relationships. We must partner with our community. We must inform them in accessible ways. We must connect, collaborate, and then compensate with them. We must engage with them. Is this work hard? It absolutely, right, is hard. But you know what else is hard? Being poor is hard, right? Living in lack is hard, right? Feeling like you need to go to the government and your community to get your basic needs, right? It's hard. So let's make it a little bit easier for our community, right? And spice our communities up, right? Thank you.